What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of 10K on the Bay, my journey to 10,000 live listings on eBay. Sorry, I've been going live a lot today, but I wanted to share something really cool with my buddy, Jason, Prof Sales, who and I have put a link to his channel in the description. Check it out. Prof's known for his awesome data analytics on how to keep track of what's going on in eBay. So today I wanted to share 3 numbers that we want to keep track of and sort of just pick each other's brains on why we want to keep those numbers, why we want to keep track of those numbers and see how they can really help build our eBay business. So Jason, do you want to give us a quick intro?
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. Thanks for having me on, man. It's been a little while since you and I have been on a show together, so this is cool. Yeah, but I'm Prof Sales on YouTube, and I sell on eBay, Amazon, local meetups, Craigslist, and so on. And yeah, I do like the analytical side of the business. So we spend a lot of time talking about that, talking about how you can figure out, to use the numbers that tell a story. And if you can read that story, then you can, become a better reseller. So I'm really an advocate for doing that, at least knowing what your numbers mean and using that to make better decisions for your business. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. So the way I usually do shows is just get right into the meat and potatoes, and hopefully by the end of it, we'll have a nice chunk of people that ask some Q&A. So we're going to each share a metric and go back and forth and just to have a brief discussion on each metric. So my first metric is going to be listings per week. And so that metric I personally want to keep track of because I'm curious what my capacity is for getting items up. And in theory, if my sell-through rate is the same as the number of listings that my capacity is, at that point I sort of have a mature business. And as an example, if I can get up 200 listings and my sell-through rate is 200, so I basically stay the same size every week. If I do $10 of profit per item, then I have a $2,000 per week business in theory. So what do you think of that metric?
Yeah, I like that one. And what I think is interesting about it is we all have in our brain this idea of like, I can do this many listings per week, I can do this many, but then you go out and you do it. And there's reality, and you're like, oh, well, I did 87 listings this week, and this week I did 102, and this week I did 26. And then there's just this average. And then you start looking at that and you think, well, are there ways I can improve on that? And that will impact all those numbers you just mentioned, Chris. That's going to improve your profitability. That's going to improve, your sell-through. You're going to sell through more items. But it's like you have this average, whatever it is, and then you can take that and start finding ways to improve on it. But if you don't ever, think about it in those terms, you'll never actually get to that point. So I think it's a super important one.
Awesome. So yeah, what is your first metric that you'd like to keep track of?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, and I know some people are going to probably, it's kind of a little trickier to show because I don't think I can do a screen share since I'm not the host of the Hangout. But if you go onto your eBay account and you look at, there's a tab up there in the Seller Hub called Performance. And under Performance, there is a metric called Listing Impressions on eBay. And there's some other numbers there too. But what that number means is that's the number of times that your items show up on eBay in a search. It's called listing impressions. It just means that they showed up. Somebody searched for, 7 For All Mankind jeans and one of my items showed up. That counts as an impression. And you can see a trend for that number over time. So the reason I bring that up is because it's kind of an indicator about how good you are at listing. Because if you're writing good keywords and you're filling out item specifics that people are interested in, that number, and you're adding to your listings, that number should kind of keep going up. At least it shouldn't maybe go down. If it's going down and going down significantly, you got to start reassessing and saying, maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe I'm not putting the right keywords in the title. I'm not filling out the right specifics. Something about my listings is not showing up in eBay search often enough, and I'm starting to see a downward trend. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like it's a retroactive number. It shows you where you've been, but it can give you some clues on where you need to go. So I really like that one. I look at it quite often, almost daily.
So question for you. Have you noticed that with growth, sometimes the quality of your listings go down?
What do you mean by that? I'm not sure I understand the question.
So I'm trying to learn how to pay attention to that tab, but sometimes I get overly concerned with how many listings I have versus the quality. So I
Mm.
have noticed that sometimes as my listings go up, it's linear growth.
Yeah.
Sell-through rate is the same, and other times it flattens or even goes down because I've lost track of the quality.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit hocus pocus, trying to figure it out.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've noticed similar things. I do notice that as my listings go up, it tends to at least stay even, if not go up some. And you're going to get fluctuation, because of what you're selling and if it's in season or not, if people are looking for it. I mean, you don't really have as much control over that other than just sell something different.
Hmm.
But if you're selling clothing right now and you're going in the summer, you're probably going to see a dip. The trick is, how big of a dip is it compared maybe to other people, and compared to yourself, maybe in previous months or years. But yeah, I've noticed the same thing with it. I think it's just one more tool that helps tell the story, but I don't think it is the story. You got to keep that in mind as well, just like with any of this stuff.
That's fair. Um, so my second number that I want to keep track of is profit margin weekly, and this uh, the specific amount that I'm looking for is in percentage of actual sales. So I'm actually going to modify this to just profit per week to keep it simple. So the number I'd like to keep track of is how much net money am I making per week, and I may even stop talking about revenue. And leading with profit. So if I were to say to people, I do $3,000 a week, and the first question they're going to ask is it revenue or profit? So I'm just going to lead with that first. And I think if I can keep track of my profit per week, I'm not great at tracking this, but I'd love to know week after week if my
Yeah.
profit is going up and down, because that's really the number. That's the real number.
Yeah. And I'm curious too, like, do you keep track of maybe not only the profit per week, but what's it look like in terms of I hate to use the term return on investment, but when you buy things to sell them, it's almost like you're investing, in a strange way. You're hoping for a future return. But do you keep track of, that in relation to like how much time you're putting in and, how much money you're spending to get it? Are those part of the calculation?
This is a great point, because if you look at it in a percentage of sale, if you're selling cheap items, it's kind of misleading because shipping is such a high percentage of it.
Mm.
But if you look at it versus your actual investment dollar wise, I think that's a better way to look at it, versus instead of percentage of revenue, how much are you spending versus how much you get as a return. So for example, if you buy something for $1 and you sell it for 50, and I'm sorry, if you buy something for $1 and sell it for 10 and net 3, you essentially tripled your money, versus looking at it as in like a 30% margin of 10.
Right.
So I think how much you spent, how much you got back, is nice versus the percentage of revenue, because it's sort of, when you hear 30% revenue, you don't hear triple your money.
Right. Right.
But you also don't hear only $3 total profit.
Yeah. Because would you rather put in the time? And that's a great question. Would you rather put in, the time and energy to buy a $10 item and make 30, or the time and energy to buy a $1 item and make 3? It's the same margins, but you're not making as many dollars, and there's some level of work you've got to put into it, unless you can replicate the $1 item into 3, and hey, a quantity of 100, and I make one listing and I'm done. So I think that's got to come into it somewhere. Like, can you replicate it? How much time will it take? Versus how many dollars you get out for that amount of effort. So, and it's like, I don't know, I don't know about you, Chris, but I don't have like a set answer to that problem. Like, people say, how much do you want to make on an item? And I'm like, it depends. It's like, I don't have a set answer.
No, it's extremely challenging. That's why I'm going to simplify it to just how many listings, how much profit.
Mm.
I think if I can just look at my profit and how many listings, then I'll be able to adjust. If my total profit is too low,
Yeah,
but my listings stay equal, then I can adjust. There just has to be some variables that don't change.
right.
And I think I would like to have my listing capacity remain the same, instead of every single thing changing every week.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's great.
Mm-hmm. What's your
All
next
right.
one?
All right. So my second one is, sorry, there was like a rabbit in the front yard. It's distracting me. My second one is average sourcing cost. Now that sounds like complicated, but it's really not. And it kind of ties into what you were talking about. So let's say that, you're selling through 100 items a month on average. And you know that if you kind of keep your listings around the same, let's say you're selling a type of item that's maybe not very seasonal, maybe it sells sort of similarly year round. And and that's good for you. Like that's a good amount of money you want to make. It kind of meets your goals. But the question comes in like, all right, well, how much am I going to have to spend to make that $100 every month? Well, if you don't know what it costs you to buy those items or sell those 100 items, then, you don't know the answer to that question. So I always like to track, just how much it's costing me on average for the items that I buy, because I can look at that and think, all right, next month, if I'm going to sell 300 items, then I'm going to need to replace those 300 items. And if I want to grow, maybe I want to buy an additional 200, let's say. And so that's 500 items total I'm going to need next month. And if I'm spending $5 an item, then I know I need to spend $2,500, roughly somewhere in that range. And I think a lot of people, you run into these weird things in reselling where like you're selling. And then like I told Karin today, I was actually shooting a different video and I went, we don't have any jeans to list right now. We're literally out. And I needed 2 pair of jeans for the video I was shooting to do something. And I had to go upstairs to inventory and get them. And I just thought, oh, I kind of lost track of where my sourcing was because I've been spending money on shoes and other things. And so you kind of have to have a feel, I think, for, what it's going to cost you each month to go back out and invest in your inventory, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And I think that the number of listings, you had mentioned 500, replenishing 500 items each month. That seems to be a pretty common number. Between 100 and 200 listings a week is sort of what a full-time reseller really can do comfortably.
Right.
Once you're beyond 200 listings, it starts getting uncomfortable. You either have staff or you're having a lot of multiples, or it's different. And if you do have multiples, you're spending a larger amount of time sourcing to get multiples. And so, I guess the age-old question is, if you can only list 500 items, should you list the 500 most expensive, highest margin items? Because that's sort of your capacity as a normal reseller. I don't meet too many resellers that can get up more than 200 listings a week.
Yeah, and the question becomes, like when you just said, should you list your 500 most profitable? But when will they sell? Your most profitable item, depending on what you're selling, if it's vintage shoes, for instance, it might sit there for 6 months or a year. But just because until you find just that one buyer, Tino and I were talking about that today. I've got a pair of shoes that I think are from the 1950s or 60s, just because, and they don't have a brand name on them, and they actually don't have a size on them because back then they sized them differently. Like they put the size in the 1960s and earlier on certain shoes a different way. Like it doesn't look like size 8. It doesn't say that. But I'm saying, I had these shoes sitting here and I thought I'm going to take, 30 minutes or whatever and try to figure this out what these are. And then I realized in 30 minutes, I could have listed, 5, 10 more items, whatever. So I did that instead. Just because even though I know these shoes might be, $100 pair of shoes, it's going to take me some time to figure it out and get them up and listed. So it's like always, it's like that time calculation versus how quick you'll get your money back out and how much it will be. I mean, it's always like all those elements together. It's like you can't totally separate them without thinking about the other ones, or you run the risk of, not really maximizing your time for the amount of money you're make. So.
Awesome. Is it my turn?
Yeah, I think it's you. Yep.
Okay, so my last one, and I'm not great at this, but I would like my third one to be sell-through rate. And I'd like to get to a 5% sell-through rate based on the weekly, based on the number I start with the first day.
So sell through 5% a week? Is that what you're saying?
5% a week based on the number that I started with at the beginning of the week. and at the end of the week have more listings than the beginning. So I want to try to get to a 5% sell-through rate weekly based on the first number, which is a little confusing because what happens if one of the items I list that week sells? Does that count towards the sell-through rate of the initial amount?
Yeah, that gets kind of
A little fuzzy.
complicated.
A little
It's like you
complicated.
almost have to pick a point. You have to pick a point, like you're saying, I'm going to start on Monday and I have 2,000 listings up, and I want to sell through 5% of those, which is about 100 listings by the end of the week. So, you know, that's your goal. Like if you sell 100, but in the same time, you listed another 200 or 300. So, you know, it's like, I don't know. I think you almost have to pick those points like you're talking about. Like you got to pick a point in time and say, all right, where am I at this moment? Because to add in the listings you list along the way, it's like you're always having to track like a daily average. And it's really complicated, actually. I've tried to do it once and I went, okay, this is just dumb. This is way too complicated. I'm just going to pick a number at the beginning of the month, and then I'm going to look at what I sell through. But I mean, 5% a week is not, I mean, that's not that crazy. I don't think that's like what, probably about 22, 23% a month or something like that. It probably works out to. So do you think you'll hit that number like year round? I mean, I know like different parts of the year, it'll be, you know, higher or lower, but what's your feeling on that?
I think I can definitely maintain that. And that's one of the metrics I'm going to use to determine, to avoid seasonality. Maybe I can source items that will sell within 5 months. That's the concept. And I had a gentleman reach out to me and say that's not really, that might be a good average, but if you get a really good winter item right now, it's going to take longer. So you should almost allow yourself an entire year. But then of course, if you're buying items that are trending right now, they're going to sell within 30 days. So if you're going for a 5% sell-through rate weekly all year, that's great. But don't panic if, it's always an ebb and flow and you have to adjust. But he had a sell-through percentage goal of 1 year.
Really?
Hopefully, because so he can fully go through the season, regardless of the item.
Yeah, I mean, the only tricky thing I see about that proposition is if you have unlimited capital to put in inventory, you can do that.
Right.
But who has that?
Unlimited money, no problem. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem because, you're going to sit on things. You're going to have something on January 1st and still have it on December 31st, potentially. And you have to ask yourself, what's the opportunity cost of that $10 I spent on that item to make 30? What's the opportunity cost of setting on it for 12 months? How many other $5 items or even other $10 items could I flip during the year and earn profit on? And so possibly you're hurting yourself. The problem is you never know really what you could have done because all you really have to go on is what you did. So you don't know about all these infinite other possibilities you could have taken. And then you get to the end of the year or the end of the month or end of the quarter, whatever it is, and you go, well, I could have done this and I could have done that, and it might have had these results, but you don't know because you didn't do that. So
Right.
you kind of just have to look at the numbers and make your best guess at it. I hate to say that, here I am, Prof Sales, saying at some point you just got to guess this is the right path, an educated guess, but it's still kind of a guess to some degree.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know.
So that's my third.
I like that one. Sell through. Don't even get me started. All right. So my third one is, and again, it goes along with what we're talking about, is average selling price. And the reason I like to look at that is because, again, if you've got an idea of sell through to, talking to your number, Chris, I'm going to sell through 25% of my items a month. And I know what average selling price I'm going to get for them based on previous trends to some degree. Then I know what my revenues are going to be. And you can even figure out profit from that too. Because the struggle I have in the reselling world is that I run into a lot of people who continually want to wing it and take a guess at what's going to happen. And I just said, you have to take an educated guess. But then when it doesn't go the way they think it should go, they never want to hear that, well, what was this number? What was that number? They're like, That doesn't matter. I mean, you can't control any of those things. I'm like, well, yeah, you can't control them, but when things happen, you can adjust and pivot and go in a different direction or tweak your model or move a different way. And if you don't know something like, well, what's the average selling price of your items? You know, if I'm selling 100 items a month and they're 25 bucks an item, I'm going to gross about $2,500. It's pretty simple, but there's plenty of people out there and you ask them, hey, what do you think you're going to make this month? And they're like, no clue. You know, and that's not really how you run a business. I mean, you can, if you're hobby selling, that's fine. You don't really care about the revenue. But if you want to run a business and have a scalable model to any kind of size at all, you have to take a guess on what your revenues are going to be. And you can't do that if you don't know what you're selling stuff for. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I just think it's one of those things that like kind of gets overlooked. They're like, I just want to sell profitable items. I'm like, that's really not all there is to that. I wish it was. Yeah, everybody wants to sell profitable items, but you need, you know, again, going back to, you can sell $3 items that you bought for $1. That's profitable, but is it really worth it? Probably not, given the work you got to put into it. So I like average selling price. I think it's just another piece of the puzzle, and I think you have to have some idea about what it is.
Awesome. So now at this point, we're going to each summarize our three, and then we'll go straight into Q&A for you guys. So the three metrics that I'd like to keep track of every week are: how many listings can I put up per week? How much profit, net pre-tax profit am I making per week? And what is my sell-through rate weekly? And I would like to keep, obviously all three I would like to increase, but those are the three numbers that I'm really focusing on. So listings per week, total profit per week, and my sell-through percentage based on the first day of the week.
Yeah. And I got to say, when Chris, you sent me that list, I was like, man, you took the best ones. He's like, come up with three. And I'm like, that's probably the three I would have come up with. So in addition to Chris's three, I also, I like to look at the number of listing impressions that I'm getting and trending on eBay and the Seller Hub, because it shows me, it gives me an idea about how good my listing skills are. Am I putting things out there that people are searching for? I also like to keep track of my average sourcing costs, so I know how much of a budget I'm going to need to spend on items from month to month, and even week to week. You could break it down depending on how you source. And the third thing is, how much am I selling items for? ASP, average selling price. That gives me an idea about what kind of revenue I'm likely to see in the next month, and so on and so on. So those are my three.
Now let's go into some Q&A. So if you guys want to put in the chat right now what metrics you like to keep track of, let's take a night. Let's see if we missed any major ones that people are saying. I got a couple of messages when I put up the post on Instagram. People were saying they track average item. What do you think of that metric?
You know, it's so easy with a spreadsheet to throw stuff in there like that. I mean, why not? You know, and I do. I mean, I have that on there. I even have it broken out by category, like what's my average profit per jeans and shoes and shirts and things like that. But I don't see any problem with tracking that. I just think you need to make a determination about whether it's worth it. You know, if you could do a draconian bins flip strategy and sell stuff for $9 with free shipping. You know, I mean, you're not going to make a lot of profit. You're going to make a little bit, but you got to ask yourself, is it worth the time and energy to source that item, even if you only pay 60 cents for it? Do photos, put up a listing, packing, shipping, dealing with all that. You don't really know that unless you see the net profit. And the net profit, I think to your point, Chris, or the point of the person in your Instagram, that's before taxes and your overhead. So it's really not even net profit at that point. It's like your operating profit, and then net profit is taxes and your overhead and all that, you know, will come out of it depending on your tax situation, if your business and so on. But I mean, why not keep an eye on it? It lets you figure out your margin, your margin. So I do it, but I don't get too hung up on it unless it's really, really low. Then I get upset.
So we have a question or a comment: percentage increase on a 31-day, so month over month growth.
How do you feel? Do you track that? I mean,
I don't.
what do you think about that? Like, I don't look at that.
I see the number. It's either green or red, right? Did you go up or down? I think
Yeah.
that's an instant snapshot if you're growing, if you're winning or not. There's more because top line revenue growing is one
Yeah.
indicator of success.
I tend to look at it like I want to see it like compared to that time last year,
Hmm.
because that takes the
Oh, year
seasonality
over
out
year.
of it,
Okay.
you know. But I don't tend to look at it on a rolling 31 days that much, because as you get out of winter with clothing, you know, it's going to drop in the spring and summer, and you're going to think, oh my gosh, I'm doing horrible. Nope, you're kind of normal. So
Hmm.
I don't get
How do
too
you
caught
feel
up in it.
about watchers versus watchers versus views?
I mean, what do you think, man? Do you even pay attention to watchers? I don't even pay attention to them anymore. I used to, but I don't even
I
look.
I'll increase prices on items that have more bids or more watchers and more.
Do you? Does it
That's the
work? Do you
only.
think it gets?
That's,
Do you think it helps, or what do you? What's your thought?
yeah, it does help. And a lot of
Hmm.
the items I have, I used to do buy now best offer on every single item. Now items
Hmm.
under $25, I've removed best offer. But if
Okay.
there's a lot of activity, I will increase the price, add best offer with auto decline
Right. Right.
at the same number basically, but increase the price and then I'll re-accept it. And that's worked for me.
Yeah.
Um, but I love the auto decline. That saved me. It seems like it saved me a lot of time. I used
Yeah.
to enjoy responding to people, but now it's too much.
Yeah. It's too much of a time suck. And I even set in auto decline and auto accept, and they're the same
Right.
number.
Hmm.
So
It's the
there
same
you go.
number. Yeah.
And it's great because it comes up on your phone and it says, "Hey, you know, they accepted your offer. Hey, they paid. You know, they made you an offer. Hey, they bought it. You know." And it's like, bing, bing, and you're done. You don't have to contact anybody. I don't know. I wonder if that helps you though. And nobody knows. I mean, does that, because you have that set like that? You know, I mean, I know now buyers have 5 offers, so maybe that will help. I actually think that was a good thing. I was glad eBay did that. I felt like when they went to 5 best offers. What's your thought?
I like that. I wish they would have changed it to 24 hours instead of 48 hours.
Hmm.
Because I've heard that entices people to move more quick. And 5 offers
Yeah.
is great, but I like the fast. I heard when I went to the eBay meeting, there was a gentleman that said, "However long it takes me to respond to their offer is how long they should have me respond to the offer." And I was like, "Wow, that's so funny." If you respond in 5 minutes, they need to respond in 5 minutes, or it's over.
That's interesting. It's not, well, yeah, they're not going to do that.
You're not going to do that, but it was a funny suggestion.
It's like eBay would have to be open at certain times of the day and then close the rest of the day so people wouldn't miss
Mhm.
out on their offers. um, what else we got in here?
That's
Seemed like there were some other questions. Yeah.
how many days from purchase to sale? I like that average turn.
Do you track that, Chris?
I don't. I have no idea how long my items average ticket because I don't track it per item, just on the whole.
Hmm.
So the items that
Yeah.
sell within 30 days are mixed in with the items that have been around for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like you said, that gives you an idea of inventory turn. Like, all right, if I've got 1,000 items, I can turn 1,000 items this many times per year. And it doesn't really matter which items they are. People get hung up on that, but I still got this one item from 2014. Doesn't matter. You know, your items are items when you're dealing with commodities like we're talking about with clothing. But I track it by category a little bit, only because it just ties in with how I record my sale. So it's not a big deal to throw that out. But I kind of don't know that it's as useful as we probably think it is. I don't really think it's that useful.
No, yeah, that's one of those ones that you could track, but it's kind of hard to act on
Yeah.
unless
Yeah.
you have a. For a while, what I did was I would put an X in the title if it was 30. When I was doing 30 days instead of good till canceled, which I just recently switched to.
Hmm.
After 30 days, I would put an X in the title. After 60 days, I'd change it to a Y.
I
And
remember
after
you saying
90,
that. Yeah.
and I really liked that, but then it's so time consuming to do 30 days instead of good till canceled.
Yeah.
So there's no, it would be great if on the listing it said how old it was
Hmm.
as a number.
Yeah,
That's not really
initial,
a feature.
initial list date. You know, it could just say
The initial list date, yes.
yeah, but I don't know that their system, you know, so many people go in and they'll relist things as sell similars. So
Hmm.
that's in effect a whole new listing. You know, and eBay is already quirky enough with that feature sometimes. I don't think they really want to try to add any more programming to it to get it, you know, it's like, but it would be nice if you could just say, all right, I listed this item on, you know, January 12th and I know how old it is. If it showed like an age, it could even show an aging report. I wouldn't think that'd be that hard for eBay to do, but I don't know. They're probably not too interested in doing it.
Prof, have you switched to same day handling or 1 day handling or 60-day returns?
I have switched. Well, I didn't switch to 1 day handling. I've had that. I don't do same day. That's too crazy. But 60-day returns, I have started doing that.
I offer same day shipping, but my cutoff is 9 a.m. Eastern.
You are a beast, sir.
Because 9 a.m. Eastern is basically the day before. So I mean, it's just like if they don't get it in before I wake up, then it doesn't
That's
count.
pretty funny. You think it pushes you up in like search rankings? I mean, that's the only reason really to do
I
it.
think so. That's why I adjusted it.
I might do that.
What time does your post guide come?
Oh, it's all over the place.
Oh, it's all over.
We go to the post office. I mean, it is all over. It could be anywhere from noon till 6:30, literally. So there's no rhyme or reason to it. I'd have to,
but not earlier than noon.
No, unless it's a weekend.
Okay.
Occasionally they come earlier than that. Every once in a while, it's the weirdest thing, man. I don't even get it. That's pretty cool though. So same day handling, 9 a.m. cutoff. That's great.
And it's 9 a.m. Eastern. It's not even Pacific.
Yeah, so that's 6 a.m. your time. So like, yeah, you're golden.
It's really
wake up. It's too late for somebody to avoid the order at that point. That's awesome. I like that. I might have to do that. So have you gone to the 60-day return as well?
I have. I don't have very many returns.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that gives you a little bit of I assume it does.
You would think. I mean, why not? I mean, I talked about this on a show a couple weeks ago. I don't think that's going to make any difference in returns, honestly. It might even make them go down. Dumb as that sounds. Yeah. People lose track.
I accepted a 180-day return because the guy agreed to basically a 33% restocking fee.
Oh, jeez.
And I said, because I'm like, I can't, you know, it was a brand new pair of shoes. He did not wear it.
Right.
So I said, okay, I'm not, you know, what kind of restocking fee is fair? He said, I'll pay return shipping. How about a third? So I said, okay. And then I ended up keeping them because I liked that pair. But it was like, I could resell it again. I haven't worn it. But like, if it wasn't my size, I might have said no. But it was just like such a good deal.
Wow.
To make profit again. He's going to pay return shipping. It was like, it was a November sale.
Okay. So this just happened. Not too long ago. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm guessing it was an expensive pair of shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, because I mean, obviously, I think that helps too with clothing. A lot of people, they're like, well, if you spend $25 on it or $20, it's like, I don't know. People, I think, don't even care at some point. They're like, whatever. I only paid $16 for this. I'll get around to returning it eventually. And then they never do. And it just drops off, which is great.
Because I know Zappos has 365-day returns.
Yeah.
And that made their returns go down.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. You know? Yeah. So, I think it's one of those counterintuitive things. I think it's just where people just forget. It's, oh, I got 60 days. That's 2 months. Like most people can't even think past about a week, you know, with stuff like that. I mean, I'm not. Like if I get something, I need to return it, it'll lay here for a couple weeks easy before I even remotely think about it. So unless it's really expensive, and you know, most of our stuff isn't really expensive. So I think I
know that mentality works on rebates. The longer they make the rebate period to a certain extent, the less people send it in. Right.
And that's what they're hoping for, is that you won't.
That's what they're hoping for.
They don't get me, man. When I get a rebate, I do it right away. I only look for the online ones. Like I got one from Staples a few months ago on some paper, and I'm like, I sent that thing in right away and got my $45 Visa gift card or whatever it was. So I was like, you know, so the paper ended up being really cheap.
There's a motorcycle dealership here that they tried it. They tried a $2,000 Harley Davidson rebate, mailed-in rebate,
Whoa.
and they set up the program 2 grand, and they said, okay, if one person doesn't send it in out of the 20 we do, that's $2,000. And they set up the program, and 2 people didn't send it in.
Oh man. So
It was a
$4,000.
60-day rebate for 2 grand. That's amazing.
It is
You'd
amazing.
think that would be the first thing you do when you get home.
Do you think you'll go to the what do you think about the whole free returns situation that they're going to push in the summer, and maybe it'll make permanent? Who knows?
I'm okay with free returns. It's not if it will make people shop on eBay instead of Amazon.
Interesting.
I'll be okay. But I see the Amazon clothing growing because it's so easy to return things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think everyone's gonna have to do a little bit more volume to deal with all the perks of people expecting return anytime. I wish there was a way to prevent returns. I'm sorry, rentals.
Right. Right.
Which is more challenging with pre-owned clothing. Like we sell a lot of pre-owned clothing. We have no idea if they wore it or not.
Right. We don't. But I think there again, if it's the higher end stuff, you probably need to worry a little more. But the lower you go in the price point, I just think that people, I don't know. I mean, if somebody really wants this, I don't know if I'll do it or not, but if somebody wants to really scam me out of $20 for a pair of jeans so they can wear them for the weekend and go through all that trouble of getting them, sending me money, packing them back up, shipping them to me, even if they don't pay for the shipping, it's like, I don't know. I just don't see that that'll go crazy, but who knows? I mean, but if it was a $500 pair of shoes, that's different. But for lower end, it's like, are people really going to go through all that trouble to do that just to try it on or just wear it for one occasion? Maybe.
I just sold a pair of mules for $35, and the blue. She said the blue is darker than in the pictures. I said, okay, no problem. Sorry about that. Go ahead and send it back, or I can offer you a partial refund or full refund. I'll pay shipping. I did not mean to mislead you. And you tell me what you think is a reasonable partial refund. So it's $35 sale. She said a reasonable refund would be $30.
So pretty much the whole price.
Yeah, I said, wow. I'll just take a return then. If those are my two options, I'll pay for return shipping. I'll just take it.
Wow, that is
First
crazy.
class,
$30.
First class is $4.30 on the 1 pound. So I figured, okay, don't worry about it. I apologize for misleading you that it was a darker blue.
Yeah.
Let's just go for it.
It's like there's only so much you can do with that. And that's one of those too. And you know what sucks about it is like if you wanted to fight that one, quote unquote, you'd probably win and she wouldn't be able to return it for that reason if you took good pictures and so on. But like it's not even worth it. That's the problem. It's like your time and energy, and it's just not even worth it. It's like take the shoes back and just move on,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And some people don't have a printer. I don't have a printer. Can you mail me a label to mail you back the item?
Yeah,
So
I get that one occasionally.
Um,
mail you a label so you can mail these back. It's like, do you have a public library? They have computers there, free library card. I don't know. It's like, I feel like I want to sell them a printer at that point. It's like, I need to find a printer to sell to them.
I like Tino has a policy where he charges a restocking fee if you take longer than 2 weeks or something to return it.
Yeah.
I really like that concept because he's not really charging a restocking fee. He just wants you to return it quickly.
Right. That's exactly right. And I think most people who are going to return it are going to return it within 2 weeks. I have a feeling. Like if you ran the numbers on that, and people who wait longer than that, like once I see that return go past about the 2 week mark, it almost never gets returned, it seems like. It's just like people forget about it. They're like, oh, I got plenty of time. And then I think I guess eBay sends you messages when you start a return. I don't even know. Do they send you a message? I mean, I get a message as the seller like, hey, has such and such been returned? And I'm like, I just ignore the message if it hasn't been returned. Like there's no reason to respond.
I also don't have a process for dealing with returns. Sometimes they return it because it's their fault. And I literally have 8 returns in a pile that I haven't relisted them.
Hmm.
So I need to get on that. But I'd rather list something that hasn't already sold.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't you think though? I don't know. Well, I don't know your process. Like for me, when I relist them, that's the first thing I do. Like when I get the return, I get it back. I'll just go in and do the relist, and I've already got the photos because it's the same photos, assuming the item's in the same condition.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that'll change sometimes is the inventory location. It might end up going somewhere different. It usually does, but that's just like one quick little thing to change. And then I got it listed, and then I go in and do the return, and give them their money and whatever. I don't know. I find it pretty quick though, but I wonder. I'm also thinking too that kind of counts as a new listing. So that sort of primes the eBay pump, so to speak, if that's true or not. I don't know, but so that's why I tend to jump on returns pretty quickly for that reason.
So people are asking about my yellow lenses. I don't know there's no brand, but apparently it blocks the blue light. So I like to wear it in the afternoon so that I sleep better. I think it's working, but they're not prescription. The yellow apparently blocks the blue light.
So that's why you had those photos wrong on those shoes.
That's right.
Because they were blue.
I put a dark blue. Big D Reseller says whatever the percentage of blue wrong it was, should be the percentage of the discount.
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe you, I don't know. I've never tried that before with a buyer. Just approach it like a percentage and say, hey, I can give you, 20% off. I don't know. Maybe it becomes still a haggle. And she says, no, I want 90.
$30 off a $35 sale. I really wasn't expecting that answer.
You think it was a typo? Like she meant to put like $10 off or something, maybe, and just put a 3?
I don't know. $30. That's literally the entire cost minus the shipping.
That's great. It's like, no thanks. Just send me the shoes back. Just send the item back.
Yeah, Big D, I know you were kidding. It's just funny that people, and I've had people say, no, it's okay. I don't need a partial refund. I was just letting you know that they're not exactly as described.
Yeah,
that's happened.
I do that too. Yeah, people give the weirdest. I've gotten some weird feedback lately. I got a positive on something, and the feedback was could have been better.
Right. That's funny.
I don't know. It was a pair. It was I think they were jeans. And I'm like, it was positive, but I'm like, I don't even know what to do with that. And then I got feedback the other day. The lady left me, and I don't really usually read my feedback, but every once in a while I'll kind of scroll at it, and I'll scroll down and look at it. And the lady said, I love this pair of pants and blouse or something set that I got. And I'm like, that's not what I sold you. But okay, great. So somebody else got my feedback, I guess. And, I got their feedback. But it was positive, it was good. And I'm like, all right, well, whatever. Somebody looking at that one will go, wait, I thought he sold her a blouse and pants. Said there's a pair of shoes. But I think people just don't even really, I don't know. I feel like eBay, the feedback, do you feel like the feedback is becoming a little bit meaningless on eBay in some respect?
Once you have over 1,000 feedback, it has very little effect on on anything. I've had the, didn't fit, not what I expected, overall good experience. I'm like, what is that? Like, that's not a good that's not a good experience. If it wasn't what you expected and it don't fit, you should have probably requested a return or something.
Yeah.
But some people don't care.
Yeah. I just feel like on some respect that a lot of people are automating their feedback. I mean, I do. And so then it becomes kind of meaningless. Like I'm giving you feedback before, like once you bought the item from me, I'm giving you feedback. So if you turn out to be the biggest jerk buyer in the world, doesn't matter. I'm all positive. I'm all for you, man.
Do you find you get, I don't get feedback usually if it's an expensive item.
Really?
And the example I gave was there's a seller, the username is Pineapple Express 15. And this seller sells 100 to 200 items per month at a $1,000 average sale price.
Wow.
Unbelievable. $1,000 average sale price, 100 to 200 items. Huge, huge, huge revenue. but only 90 items in stock. And of those
Yeah.
100 to 200 sales, only 17 feedback is left.
Jeez.
That's nerve-wracking, selling items for $1,000 and only 10 to 20% of them are leaving a feedback.
And they've been a seller for a while.
For a while, years.
Wow.
And the $1,000 average sale price is insane.
What?
You know, you had mentioned the Fear of God jeans. That's like 7 of their sales for clothing.
Wow. That is crazy. Yeah. I mean, what's the psychology there? Like, why would people not leave feedback on really expensive? I mean, that's a pretty expensive item for eBay for sure.
Extremely expensive. Can you imagine buying a $4,000 pair of Fear of God jeans and then no feedback? I mean, I think I would be ecstatic, but maybe I'm not that person. I can't spend $4,000 on a pair of jeans.
I'm waiting. I'm keeping that money in PayPal for 6 months to make sure that they don't.
That's true. 6 months.
You know, dispute it and go, oh, these Fear of God jeans had one more hole than I thought they had. I'm like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, and they're super distressed. That whole thing too. When you get a lot of high-end items intentionally look distressed.
Yeah.
Or people will put factory distressed in the title.
Yeah.
Then I really don't know if they've worn it.
No, there's no way to know. I mean, yeah, I've gotten that before. Like, these were more distressed than I thought. And I'm like, Then the pictures that showed it all right, you know, okay, I don't know what you want, you know. It's like, I can't drive them to your house and show them to you. But you know, I think a lot of people too, when they buy something and it's not what they thought, they just look for a reason to kind of make it our fault, you know. I mean, even if it's not like an argument or contentious, it's like, all right, I bought this and I feel kind of dumb for buying it because it wasn't my size, or it wasn't what I thought it was, or I didn't get the color right. And now I need to make the seller feel like they need to make it right. So it's kind of human nature, but I don't know.
I was going to ask you a funny question. How do you feel about never selling an item under $20 again?
I would feel ecstatic.
Because I'm considering that, even though I get a lot of items for free, the ROI would be infinite, except for my time to list it.
You've talked about this.
Yeah, and I think that I'm moving that direction.
So let me make sure I've got your question right. So what you're saying is, how would I feel about selling a $20 item? Does that include shipping?
No.
Okay, so $20 plus some sort of shipping, you know, calculated fixed.
That's the lowest end item.
Okay. And that would be, so your average sale price would be $20 plus. I don't think there's anything wrong with that model. I mean, I think there's a lot of things really, really right with it. You know, the question is always, you know, can you get enough items that will sell at that price point in a reasonable amount of time for the right amount of investment in the sourcing cost? And I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can.
I just received a wholesale box of electronics. There are 50 or so items in them. Only maybe 10 of the 50 are over $20.
Okay.
So I was thinking, I listed all of them because of the wholesale experiment, but in the future, I might just list those 10 items and even redonate the other 40. Or, I mean, ideally I could get something for it by wholesaling it or doing offer up or something. But I could be using the time it was going to take me to list those 40 to just find something else and just get rid of it and get the money I'm going to get from the 10. And I really wonder, and I feel like that's what happened with me. I am buying the items that somebody did not want. I can't imagine the people that are buying these huge tractor trailer fulls of things are not taking the good stuff.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Now, I think I know the answer, but I'd like to hear your take on it. How did you arrive at the number $20? Like, why is that a magical number? Why is that the cutoff in your mind?
I just think if you only have a 200 item a week capacity, you need to make at least $10 an item.
Okay.
And it's hard under $20 if you paid for the item.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
If you got it for free, maybe. You're right on the cusp if you got it for free, but you also need to factor in the time of getting it.
Right.
Listing it. So I think if, you know, when I look at, like, let's say a mutual friend, Tino, he tries to keep a $45 average sale price. It's way more than $10 average profit.
Right. Right.
It's almost $20. So like that's the big D resellers mentioning that in the chat. A $20 average margin at 200 items is 16 grand a month. That's a healthy business. I mean, a healthy living, extremely healthy. That's like almost 200 grand a year if you're consistently selling 200 items for $20 profit.
Now, my next question would be, would that expand out because I know you're trying the wholesale experiment, but is that going to expand out beyond clothes? Because I'm thinking on the surface of it, pulling enough items that you could sell at $20 in clothes, not impossible, don't get me wrong, but definitely tougher than, a bin strategy would be questionable because you're just going to have so much that's going to be below that number you're going to have to go through. So what would your sourcing approach look like with that kind of model?
So it's total profit. So if I get 6 items that are $5 profit, but they're all the same item, it's still worth it for me.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. And then getting a return on a bin item is frustrating because of the potential $5 in profit. I'm sorry, packaging and shipping.
Mm-hmm.
And on a pair of jeans, which I've sold quite a few of recently, it's like close to $6-7. If you get the item, let's say you get a pair of jeans at the Goodwill outlet and then you ship it, you're in the item like $7-8 plus the cost to list it. Let's say $2. You're in at 10 already.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah, and I'm also moving definitely more towards newer tags. And you just list so much faster. Right. So ideally, the $20 plus profit newer tag item, I think is a very healthy way to run your business if you have the capital to do that.
Yeah.
Someone had mentioned Pineapple Express 15. The 90 items they have listed cost over 100 grand. I'm sorry, the retail value on eBay, they're asking 100 grand.
Wow.
And somebody had messaged me saying they paid at least 70 for it.
Huh. So,
but can you imagine 90 items in stock? That's like your couch. That's not very many items.
I don't need an inventory system at that point. You can just put them in the corner, say, they're over there somewhere. I'll dig through. Of course, I don't know if they're $1,000 an item. You might want to keep them a little more secure than that. So they spent 70 grand to make 100. Is that, well, I mean, they're gonna, even after fees, they're gonna, I mean, yeah, even if you're only profiting $10,000 a month on it, that's still 120 grand a year.
Yeah, Pineapple Express definitely has 100 grand of stuff because but 90 items. I mean, it's so cool to think outside the box and think, what if your average sale price was $1,000? That doesn't really even occur to you.
No, it doesn't, because $1,000 is like, you think, I got to make a bunch of sales to get to $1,000. That's not even, you think about $1,000 in terms of a week or days, or even a month in some cases with certain people. So yeah, to do it at that level is like, you're exactly right. It's a whole different mindset. But pretty cool.
I met one more gentleman at a wedding 2 months ago who told me that he wants to make $500 profit per sale. Mm-hmm. So he can't sell items for less than $3,500 because there's typically not a $500 margin unless he's $3,500 or more. And that I was like, how do you even? He's like, well, with that mentality, I had to only sell expensive equipment, vehicles. I had to look at stuff that basically ships freight, even refrigerators. And I was like, that is so interesting. But if you set a parameter, like you want to make $500 a sale, you're not going to be selling clothing.
No.
You have to sell something totally different.
No,
you're probably going to be freight for sure.
Yeah, and I think too, maybe the approach is, I don't know his story, but he probably didn't start out with, I'm going to make $500 an item, therefore I need to sell $3,500 items. He probably started out and say, well, I want to make $50 an item, so I'm going to sell, $200 items, and so you can go source $10, $50 items for $500 and flip them back out for $2,000. But yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of scaling that up. I mean, that's a cool model when you think about it, because it really minimizes your storage. It minimizes the amount of time you got to spend sourcing or listing. It does maximize your risk with capital for sure. You got to be comfortable doing that. but obviously you've probably built to that level. You're not starting out, and clothing is not going to happen at that kind of level.
Tiff has mentioned that if you sold in the jewelry category, you could do it. And there was a seller out of Japan that I looked that had 86 items listed, and they were the 86. They're all the 86 items that he has listed are from one jeweler in Japan.
Wow.
And what he does is he lists for them, and a percentage of the sale goes to them, but he's making more than $100 a sale, but doesn't own any of his own inventory.
So he's kind of drop shipping, you know.
But he has to eat the cost of a potential return.
Oh, well.
But there's nothing really under $1,000 that he's selling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so interesting because people say, oh, I don't necessarily have the capital to sell something expensive. Neither does this person. He just has enough money to absorb a potential return.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of resellers, you know, like in our community, would get tripped up, because they would think about what happens when I have to eat the $500 return or the $1,000 return.
The $1,000 return,
like, you know, and that's
wipe people out.
Yeah, well, it freaks me out a little, to be honest. But I can see how the model makes sense to sort of just get up to that point, and then you simplify your business so much that now you don't even have to run a full-time business and to make full-time income in a lot of ways, because you're dealing with so few items, you know, and so few sales. It's just a little simpler, more risk, but a lot less time and energy. You could go do something else.
Mm-hmm. You can sell. I was just telling people, if I sold 10,000 jets versus 10,000 used pieces of clothing, it's totally different. Like one jet is more than all the clothing combined.
Yeah. You're selling like F-16s or something.
F-16s. All right, well, I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you, Jason, for coming on to my show. Do you have any final thoughts?
Just, you know, hey guys, you know, we start off the show talking about metrics and stats and so on, and just knowing your numbers and things to keep track of. And I don't care what it is, you know, but you got to keep track of some things so you know how your business is doing. So take that bull by the horns if you haven't already, and you will thank yourself that you did. So thanks for having me, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so everybody, if you're still in the chat, hit the like button and also subscribe to Jason's channel. We've been talking for half a year now, pretty much, pretty regularly. It's great to network. Make sure that you reach out to other resellers and co-workers, and let's make the community run. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.
Thanks, guys.